Right on time and ready and rumble. This is NBL Overtime as we have a grand final series that is knotted at 1 apiece. What do we know from what we did 7 days ago? Probably not a great deal, except it's going to be extremely hard to win on the opposition's home court. Big show ahead of us. Get involved. Hashtag NBL19. Hashtag NBL Overtime. Hashtag Seeing Criddle with a man who rolled in to a stadium with 14,000 passionate Red Army fans in a Melbourne United hoodie and hat. Corey Carey, Homicide Williams. Hello, big fella.
I'm doing pretty good.
Didn't ask you, but how are you doing? Are you well?
I'm very, very well. You didn't ask me that?
I didn't ask you yet.
Oh, okay,
just
my
said
bad.
g'day, but no, it's good. Hey, I did like the way you rolled in. You played the villain beautifully last week. You looked down the camera, you said you're going to get beat. And while it didn't work out, you stood it and you're still swinging. I like it.
Oh, look, this thing is over this weekend. I really know what's up, but I'll just wait for you. Let's interview Liam. Let's introduce him, and then
let's do it. Of course, Liam Santa Maria. Hello to you.
Hello, good to be back. And yeah, it could be. It may well be over this weekend. So much on the line, especially this Friday night, the pivotal game of the series.
Before we get to the highlights of games 1 and 2, what I've particularly liked in the last week is because we have all chosen the United to win it in 4 games. So as we sit here today, our prediction is still a chance to be correct. And boy, haven't the Red Army come for us. It's been an interesting week on social media. I didn't block anyone. I've seen Shane Hill blocked about 1,100 people, judging by the tweets. But the Red Army are about as passionate as it comes right now, and that's exactly what's going to happen on Friday night. They have the best home court. Just ask them, but so many of us, including us, agree. And Friday night, when we get back there, it's going to be outstanding. As you look back to what happened last week, and game 1 was, well, a struggle in that first half, but Perth started the third quarter, as we'll get to in a moment, was really the difference in the win in game 1.
Oh, definitely. Perth played their basketball. The thing is, what they were able to do is defensively create turnovers. They did that. Melbourne United, 16 turnovers. Melbourne United also did not make shots, although Chris Golden ended the first half with the 4-point lead for Melbourne United. But it was the third quarter that changed everything. Perth Wildcats going on a 31-14 run in the quarter, point quarter. And that right there pretty much set the tempo for the second half to be finished, and Melbourne United go down 0-1.
Dean Vickerman, you spoke about the turnovers. Dean Vickerman mentioned this about a month ago when they lost to Sydney on the road. He spoke about the fact that their spacing was horrible and it just meant everything was clogged up and they were trying too hard. It was a lot better effort to do it on Sunday, but even if you have a look at this late, they just couldn't get stops. It was a very similar game to that last game in Melbourne, the last game of the regular year, where Melbourne hit some big threes late to give themselves a chance to win in overtime, but it didn't happen this time because guys stood up. You've seen Wagstaff hit a 3 before. Here you go. You see the tip-down dunk, there you go, by Kay that really ended it. Guys stood up for the Perth Wildcats and made some big shots, and that wasn't the case at all on Sunday.
Well, it was a big part of the storyline for the opening weekend, wasn't it? Supporting cast members stepping up at home. You mentioned those guys that got the job done for the Wildcats in RAC Arena, and in this game, the game that tied it up, those guys stood up for Melbourne. Obviously, the Wildcats were really good in the first half. They were poised, just like Melbourne were at halftime in Perth. They were poised to really make something of it and have a crack in the second half. But yeah, the third quarter, DJ Kennedy was a massive part of that, as was Mitch McCarron. Those two guys really pushed the tempo and turned the tables and built that double-digit lead that turned out to be a match winner.
Tariko White's first weekend in the grand final series was outstanding, and we spoke last week about what he's going to have to do to be such a huge help to Bryce Cotton, and he was, in particular on Friday night.
That was a massive hit, because that one turned into this, I'm sure they'll show it, this next one on the very next possession from Casper, and those two superstars hit 2 superstar shots midway through the fourth quarter to drive in the dagger.
As we sit here, it's all tied up, and we're going to get to our poll very shortly, which is based around who leads the MVP for the final series. But who has stood up? It's such an even series. We're all knotted at 1, but who has stood up in the first 2 games to really prove that they're ready to take this game, game 3, the most pivotal one right now? Who do you think stood up the most?
Well, it's hard to say over both games. I think one guy who stood up over both games is probably Casper Ware. Not necessarily at the offensive end, he's had his struggles, but he's done a pretty good job chasing Bryce Cotton off those picks all around the floor. And as a result, he's kept Cotton. I mean, Cotton hasn't had a 20-point game, right? 10 points, his season low, and then 19. So you got to tip your hat there. I think for Perth, the guys who really stood up in game one were their front line, Angus Brandt, Nick Kay, also Tom Jervis. The physicality those guys played with in game one. They picked up those moving screens, knocking guys here left, right and centre, but they set the kind of tempo and establish that physicality for Perth. Say, we're going to be bigger, stronger, we're going to march all over you on our home court.
The bigger question is probably who has to stand up, which we'll get to in a moment. But I want to ask you about being a point guard and guarding the opposition point guard who carries the ball, and the fact that Bryce Cotton does so much of the offence, not only sets up but scores so much. Casper Ware, doing a wonderful job defensively, full court, face guarding him at different times. But how much does it take out of you? You've done it before yourself. How much does it take out of your offensive game when you have to do that possibly for 5 games in a grand final series?
One, this is not going 5 games. 2, you're right. Offensively, Casper was not there in the second game, but defensively, he's there. And guess what? If I'm not going to show up offensively, defensively, I have to step up. He's done that. It looks to me, and I've said it all year, but it looks to me like Bryce Cotton has gotten tired. I looked at his face all second game, and he looked really tired. He's using a whole lot of energy, and he's not getting nothing easy. All the shots that he gets are difficult shots that are contested. So Melbourne United and Casper Ware are doing their job on him, wearing him down. Here's where it gets different for me. They don't have enough horses. Who else can create off the dribble for Perth Wildcats? For themselves and others. Who else?
This has been an argument and a discussion over the course of the year, okay? I think it's almost irrelevant now, though, because they're in a grand final series tied at 1. Now,
it's not irrelevant.
Thank you very much.
It's very much a part of things.
Is it?
The longer it goes, the less legs they're going to have. Who are you going to rely on? Casper Ware could go 0 for 15. Melbourne United could still win. You got DJ Kennedy. You got Mitch McCarron. You even got Barlow. And you got CG43. Take the ball out of that man's hands. Who are you putting your money on to bring you home?
You're 100% confident, even though they haven't yet beat them in Perth yet, that one of these are going to swing
100%. 100%.
Even though they haven't needed someone else yet.
You're going to see.
No, look, I think Melbourne's going to win in 4 as well.
It's highly relevant. It's highly relevant because everything that they do offensively revolves around Bryce Cotton.
No doubt. All
right, they run some stuff for Tarico White. I broke this down last week. They run some stuff for some other guys at times, but most of it revolves around Bryce Cotton. Now, we talk about Perth's the supporting cast stepping up and making shots in game 1. Well, they did that because of the attention that's paid to Bryce Cotton and because of what he's able to create coming off those staggered doubles, handoffs, pick and rolls. And the rotations that puts Melbourne in. That's how Wagstaff gets open, Norton, Martin on the three-point line. It's how Tarico White gets a lot of his looks. So, yes, their reliance on Cotton at the offensive end is a very, very big part of this series. Now, we've seen he doesn't need to score a lot necessarily for them to win. 10 points. His season low in game 1, they won the ball game. 8 assists. All right, now, if he does get tired, if it does wear him down over the course of the series, it's a very, very relevant point.
My point about saying it's irrelevant is the very fact is that those players stood up in game 1. They have stood up over the course of the year where they have a minor championship. And right now it's in their hand. It's on their hand because they have the home court advantage. Now, I'm not saying it won't swing. And I think the second half of Melbourne gave them a little bit of confidence in the way they played their freewheeling basketball. They almost play with a little bit of house money going there on Friday night because they would be confident of what's going to happen at home.
Melbourne playing with house money on Friday night?
Yeah.
No way.
I think
all the pressure. I mean, you talk about the pressure being on Perth. Melbourne has to take a game in Perth.
See, and this is my point about being irrelevant because we've been here all year questioning, are they deep enough? Have they got enough of a scorer? Guys step up at home. They did it last week. So I think the conversation is somewhat diminished because they've got 2 games to get this thing done.
That sounds good. You know what? I kind of agree with what you're saying.
Thank you,
Here's
Kerry.
my kinda.
Come on.
Here's my kicker. It's not like we play Melbourne United today and tomorrow we play Cairns. We play the second best defensive team in the league again. Can you step up again against the best defensive team you're seeing? They're going to come up and guess what you do after a game? You watch film, all right? When you watch film, you break it down. All right, cool. This is what he likes to do. Let's take this away. I'm not going to help too much this time here. It's on him to help. We're going to stay here. This is what you do. Can those other complementary players have a counter? Can they hit shots when it's not open, when it's not that open?
I agree.
Yeah.
Except they've hit shots at home enough to be the minor champions and have 2 home games.
Well, they ain't seen Melbourne United all 5 games. Let's say 5 games. They ain't seen the same defensive team in a row consecutively.
Here's my kicker, though, on all that. The Red Army. Because the Red Army are a big, huge part of this series.
Man, forget the Red Army.
No. You can hate on the Red Army as much as you want.
You can't because they're so much better at home.
Because they have the biggest and best home court advantage in RAC Arena, arguably in league history. You go back to the Apollo Stadium in Adelaide, certainly Challenge Stadium in Perth. The Red Army, what the atmosphere they create there, the influence it has on the opposing team, the officials, they're human, and their own team in growing another leg. When a 2-0 run becomes a 6-0 run, becomes an 11-0 run to start that third quarter. They do it game in, game out over there in that third term. And a lot of it has to do with that very passionate sea of red. And you got to tip your hat to them. They're one of the best parts of this league, how passionately they support that team and the influence they have, which is why that loss to Cairns at the start of round 18 for Melbourne is really coming back to bite them in the arse because they're up against it.
We should have, in fairness, we probably should have done a statistical analysis on some of the players, the Wagstaffs of the world, the Brandts of the world. Steindl hasn't had a great semi or a grand final series yet, but after you got on him in early January, he turned his game around a little bit. But there is no doubt they play better at home. They have more confidence because they're playing in front of home fans, and that's where it does get tempered a little bit, the fact that we have sat here all year suggesting they haven't got the firepower. I still expect Melbourne United to win. I'm not changing my tip.
I got you.
But I also think that it was diminished because they've got it in their own hand. If they can Friday night, the following weekend, wherever that game is, these guys who grow that extra league at home, all they have to do is protect home court advantage and they're champions.
It's also the impact it has on the other team. DJ Kennedy steps to the line there at the start of the grand final, game 1 in front of the Red Army. He goes 0 from 4 from the Falcons. He hasn't done that all year. They come out at the start of the third quarter and they give up 3 offensive rebounds on the first possession. Josh Burns inexplicably heading the other way before they've secured the ball. Brandt scores. We saw the next possession, Cotton dimes up Angus Brandt because Melbourne broke down defensively. And that, like I said, that run becomes 11-0, 16-2, and it's not just Perth coming out with more energy or Melbourne coming out tired. It's that the Red Army gets involved and they're a big factor and they have that home court advantage. It's a big deal. Let's
start with that key matchup because Tariko White was MVP on Friday night and then on Sunday was DJ Kennedy going back the other way in front of his home fans. And this is an interesting one. Kennedy, 11.5, 8 boards, 3 assists, 1.5 steals. He spoke today in the media talking about when Paul Henare says when he hits the boards, they win. So he's made it a mindset to really crash the boards. And Tariko White, who's had a really good first 2 games. This matchup, boys, is one that's going to go a long way to deciding a championship.
Definitely. I think they both play key parts in their team, winning or losing. DJ Kennedy, what I love about him right now is he's a stat filler. He does everything pretty much well. They don't need him to be the best scorer on this team. Tariko White, same type of thing. But, you know, they're going to rely on him more to hit those outside shots. But I think DJ Kennedy is going to have to do a lot more, which will help Melbourne United one-on-one creating. When guys like Cat, he just gives that third option on the perimeter.
He does. He's a matchup nightmare for him at the 3 and the 4. But what do you need to do to beat the Wildcats? If you can win the rebounding battle against the Wildcats, you generally win. That's how it's been over the years with Redditch, Vlahov and Crawford, and then, you know, Redditch and Knight, and now Nick Kay and Angus Brandt, all those guys. Well, in round 18, DJ Kennedy had 15 rebounds against Perth, 9 at the offensive end. He was the key to winning the game for Melbourne. In game 2, he had 14 rebounds. I think 11 at the defensive end, sparking Melbourne's transition game. He is a huge headache for the Wildcats on the boards. And you talk about, you know, him being a stat sheet stuffer. He's a winner. He's a championship winner. At the basketball tournament in the States, 2-time, 3-time champion.
4-time.
4-time.
Well, there it is.
Champion.
4-time.
And a 2-time
MVP.
Final MVP. And what he does is he because he's a jack of all trades, he finds, where can I help this team? And he has identified getting on the glass at both ends of the floor. And for the most part, the Wildcats have struggled to stop him doing it.
And his ability to be able to rebound the ball defensively, and this has happened really in the last 6 or so weeks, not have to give it up to a Casper Ware or a Chris Golding or a Mitch McCarron, to actually put the ball on the floor, be in aggressive attack mode and get 2 feet inside the key at the other end and kick it out. Casper Ware, trailing, pull up 3. Chris Golding, pull up 3. His ability to be able to play that point forward in some small aspect is a huge reason to when they space it in the second half of the year. Matchup 2, Ware and Cotton, is one that, of course, we have been waiting for. We expected this to be such a huge and integral part of who wins a championship. 2 of the best point guards, second and third when it comes to the MVP. And right now, although Casper isn't shooting the ball particularly well defensively, as you said, Kerry, he's been outstanding.
He has been. And when you think about it, those 2 guys are just going to balance each other out, to be honest with you. It's the supporting cast that's going to have to step up. So I'm not surprised at these numbers at all. Look, for me, it's going to come down to this. Do you believe Mitch McCarron is going to foul out in Perth next game? No. Do you believe David Barlow is going to lay an egg in Perth next game? No. Do you believe they'll have 16 turnovers next game? No. I'm going to blame it on jitters and anxiety, the way they looked in Perth. They just got reassurance after they just destroyed Perth. They're coming and winning game 3. That's it. I don't want to hear nothing else.
Well, hold on, let me talk about that matchup for a sec. Because you talk about the pressure on Cotton and how much it could wear him down, how reliant they are on him offensively, not just to score, but to create plays. Casper Ware is doing a heck of a lot of work. He's obviously, Melbourne, you know, he carries the ball for most part. They look to him in the half court. They look to him late in the shot clock, right? Down the other end, he's chasing around arguably the best player in the league, the most explosive scorer. And he's working so hard, possession after possession, for the full shot clock. Now, that's part of what makes Casper Ware great, is that he can do that. And you saw for a period of time, Dean Vickerman's obviously conscious of it, with Ware on the floor, they put Hooley on Bryce Cotton late in that second quarter to try and, because he's aware, I've got to take the load off Casper a little bit because this is potentially a long series. But if Casper Ware tires, and as a result, Cotton gets off, Perth will win that. Whatever game that is, Perth will win that game.
And the thing is, too, it isn't just about Casper Ware having to face guard Cotton and vice versa, but it's the fact that Perth are making it really hard for him to battle his way through and get the ball. When they're passing it in, he does majority of the ball handling responsibility for Melbourne United as well. They're bumping him. They're bumping him off screens. And it's not different the other way. Cottons get the same. So they're wearing both these point guards down. And, and it's the way that to be almost the two best point guards in the game. It's not like we should be surprised by this, and we shouldn't be surprised that these guys continue to step up and make big baskets. But the big thing will be, you're right, if one of these guys get loose, because the other one only takes, honestly, 5 or 6 minutes off or drops the intensity, it can change the series in a half.
That ain't going to happen. You know why?
Okay.
Let me tell you who's the biggest key.
Tell me.
DJ Kennedy.
Boom, there it is.
Point forward. He does everything else. Then you got Mitch McCarron. These guys can create for themselves as well as others. You know what? You tired right now. Go sit in the corner. I got this. Let's run horns. High screen and roll. They can do that. Golan could do that. How many others could do that for Perth? Damian Martin? I'm going under. I am going under. Do we know for sure if Mitch Norton is ready for this stage to put the nail in the coffin and finish a team? I'm betting my money against them. They not going to beat me for no chip. Cotton will. Martin ain't killing me for no chip. They not.
Key matchup number 3, Angus Brandt and Josh Boone. Brandt was wonderful on Friday night. Josh Boone was wonderful yesterday. 10 points, 4.5 boards for Brandt and for Boone down the other end, hitting the glass particularly well. And I heard you on radio last night, speaking to an extremely good-looking radio host, say that you really think this matchup goes a long way to deciding.
Yeah, it's a huge key, because Angus Brandt, you talk about who else is going to give the Wildcats a scoring punch. Brandt is potentially that guy. And when they are at their best, he is doing that, because he's one of the guys around the league, one of the elite post scorers, and he can go over his left shoulder, over his right shoulder, and we saw what he's been able to do to different guys, including Andrew Bogut in the block. Now, at times during the regular season, Melbourne had their blitz rules in place against Angus Brandt. They would double him on the catch. That's how much respect they give him as a low post scorer. But so far in this series, they've guarded him single coverage. Now, he was very effective to begin game one and then throughout game one. 14 points, 7 rebounds, had a big influence and beat Josh Boone in that matchup. There were 2 possessions at the start of game 2. They rolled the ball into Angus Brandt. Boone guarded him single coverage. He moved his feet, had active hands, forced 2 turnovers. They pretty much didn't go back to Brandt the rest of the game. Only played 14, 15 minutes. Gleeson lost confidence in him. He is a huge key. Screening and rolling for Bryce Cotton and getting to the rim, and then giving them a scoring punch from the block.
Nothing?
Did you accidentally
Whoa.
No, it's serious.
I got nothing.
on that note,
wants
then,
to know.
we'll move on.
Josh Boone got that.
You have got
Josh
something.
Boone got that. He got him.
Where was that 15 seconds ago?
Siri was very confused.
All of us were. All right, let's go to the coaching battle because we're at one apiece, and both these, of course, have been championship coaches, have won Coach of the Year honours as well, 2 of the leading candidates for this year. And if you look at it in the first couple of games, is there any significant edge to give to one of the head honchos?
Geez, they've both been really good, right? And Dean Vickerman and his coaching staff made the right adjustments coming in to game 2, and the pressure's now on Trevor Gleeson to do the same because Melbourne changed some things up in that game 2 that Gleeson's going to need to respond to. And it's a fascinating battle there. What have they won the past 5 championships? Dean Vickerman and Trevor Gleeson?
Unbelievable.
Remarkable.
Yep.
That's about to go to 6 in a row. Speaks volumes to how good they are as head coaches in this league.
Look, of course, the first one struck blood at home, and the second one adjusted, as you just said. It's going to come to how many other adjustments can you make? Tire, cotton, and wear out. Let everybody else beat you. I'm guarding everybody else one-on-one.
It's funny you say
That's
that
it.
about how many more adjustments.
How many more adjustments
need to
can
be
you
made.
do?
Well, Liam Santamaria is about to tell us he's going to get over to the plasma. He did try to get out of it, but I said, hey, get out of your flip-flops, put on your Converse and get over by the plasma. And that's exactly what Liam Santamaria has done. Is he going to tell us? Corey asked, and he's going to tell us what adjustments need to be made as we go towards
No.
game
What
3.
I'm going to point out is the adjustment Melbourne made halfway through game 2 at half-time that I thought had a massive impact. We talk about defending Bryce Cotton, right? It's the key to the series in many ways. And what they've done throughout the series, the whole first, 6 quarters, on the pick and roll, when Cotton had the ball, was very effective. They were showing hard and recovering. But they were less effective when Cotton's coming off screens without the ball. Staggered doubles and handoffs. We roll the vision. Oh, have we got the clips from Perth? Probably not. Pause it there if we can. Can we pause it? I wanted to show some clips from Perth where he really hurt them like that, right? And here are the first couple. This is in the first half. Look, at the start of the game, he had 14 points in the first half in Melbourne. Coming off that stagger double on the weak side, what they're supposed to be doing there, according to their rules, is that hard show, right? But when it's hard to do when in that situation, Cotton comes off, knocks it down, right? Then the next one here, pause this here. This is the same, similar kind of action, but it's with the dribble handoff, and they're not where they need to be. So Cotton comes off on Peter Hooley. Casper Ware sees it coming. He's like, uh-oh, tries to help out. So at half-time, pause it. At half-time, Melbourne made the adjustment. They said, all right, when Cotton's got the ball, stay with what we've been doing, hard show. When he doesn't have the ball, when he's coming off those types of things, let's have the big hug the screener and let's slip under. Now, it seems strange, right? Go under the screen on Bryce Cotton, but it was super effective. He didn't score a point in the third quarter, only got 3 shots up. You see here, this is the very start of the third quarter. Boone's like, oh, I'm coming right up. Casper's going underneath. Cotton gets nothing out of it. Then you see on the next clip here, go under, and now he's got the ball. Now we're hard showing, right? And we force him into something tough. So the adjustment now goes to Trevor Gleeson. Right now, the obvious one... Oh,
Nope. Not yet.
The obvious thing is Cotton needs to see that, be aware of it, and kick back, right? Kick back off those screens if they're going to step under. But we'll see whether they do that or what they change up, because in the second half, they had him on lockdown, and that was a big reason why. and we'll see what Trevor Gleeson does in response.
As Liam Santamaria by the plasma telling us exactly the adjustment that Melbourne made into the second half, which had a 1-point lead, blowout into a third quarter. It led to even this all up at 1 apiece, heading towards Friday night. And if we talk about it, Friday night, home court advantage, RAC Arena. There'll be 14,000 screaming Red Army fans in there. And then, of course, Sunday, 11,000 packed out at Melbourne Arena. It seems like a fairly obvious thing, but how important is home court advantage, not only in this particular series, but the NBL? We spoke about this last year. Melbourne's ability to be able to defend home court, and that's what you get for being a minor champion. And this year, Perth deserve it and get it the extra game. How big do you... I'm not even going to ask you, actually.
No, he is the man to ask.
No, well...
He's the man who's actually had to go out there and play against the Red Army.
I would say that, but he has already dismissed what's going to happen on Friday night.
Now, home court advantage is extremely huge because it's home court. You know, you have, whenever you're tired or you get a little bit, a little bit of doubt, you have a support system, which is the arena backing you that gives you, that's the six man. That's really your six man. They give you that extra energy to play a little bit harder. But, nah, the refs, the whistle will be in the pocket for game 3. Straight up. But I just think the better team is going to win because they got more horses. They have more horses.
So the home court isn't that important then?
Not when you are head and shoulders the better team.
Do you believe them to be head and shoulders the better team, Melbourne?
I actually agree with Corey that that's what's going to happen.
Bam!
I don't disagree.
I know.
We all chose Melbourne in 4, and I haven't backed away from it. My only thing
It feels like you're backing away a lot.
It does feel like you're backing away.
Do you get that feeling, Corey?
I am nowhere near...
Can we put the chart back up when you had them 3-1?
I've got them 3-1. I'm just nowhere near as confident that they're just going to roll in and smack around this team on Friday night like you are. I think the way that Perth defended their home court last Friday night, and they have so much of the year, is not going to be a walk in the park. I think Melbourne found some confidence, and there's no doubt that both teams were tight to start the game last Friday night, which is not unique in a grand final game 1 or in a grand final series, and I think that spilled over into game 2, and there's no doubt Melbourne found some of that free-flowing run that is their best-suited game style on Sunday, but I just don't think they're just going to roll in on Friday night and get the job done.
He's getting some splinters on that fence.
He's definitely changing. Stay off the fence, fam.
I think it's going to be Melbourne 4-1. I'm just nowhere near as confident as you are.
Wow.
4-1, 5-1, 3-1, whatever it might be. Who is your grand final MVP? The poll is up there right about now at NBL. Hashtag NBL19, hashtag NBL Overtime. Bryce Cotton at 29, DJ at 34%, Mitch McCarron at 9, Tariko White at 28 as it stands. Do we agree with that?
Listen, I told you. Just listen to me. That is the man that is the key when Melbourne United wins. Casper is using all of his energy on defense. I'm sure there was a meeting or is a meeting like, look, y'all, I'm telling you now, I'm going to give you my all on defense. If I'm going to get tired, he going to be tired. I need the rest of y'all to step up. The next guy that is comfortable in creating under pressure and has won doing this in the world is who?
DJ Kennedy.
There you go.
If Casper Ware continues to play this type of defence and Bryce Cotton isn't anywhere near as effective or efficient as he has been over the course of the year, is there an argument that Casper Ware should be their finals MVP?
It's a good call. The thing is, though, it's not just on Casper Ware locking down Bryce Cotton. As we saw in the clips, there's so much of it has to do with the help he gets from everybody else. And we talked about that adjustment in the third quarter. Perth, obviously, offensive rebounding so crucial. It's a huge part of their identity. They did not get one single offensive rebound in the third quarter. And the reason why, Melbourne, the way they defended things...
Oh, we definitely going to get a tweet about that. Get ready for the Red Army for that. Double handshake? Oh, my God.
Oh, no.
They're going to have to shut down Twitter for 24 hours.
Listen, the way they defended all that stuff, they didn't get into rotations. When you get into rotations, you get hurt on the offensive glass, right? Cleaning your own defensive glass. So it's actually on Perth. Yeah, we talk about the pressure and everything. It's on Perth to respond to that because Melbourne found a recipe for success. That's where DJ Kennedy came into his own on the defensive glass. They got out into transition. All
right, let's just park the grand final just for a split second because news has come across my desk in the last 24 hours that the NBL, with the introduction to 9th team next year of South East Melbourne Phoenix, and a wonderful article on nbl.com.au today talking about behind the scenes and how they're building that team as we head towards the off-season. But it has come across that there will be serious consideration to what will now be known as the NBL Overtime Wildcard Final in 2019 and 20, which will be, and was pitched on this particular show, 4v5 in an elimination one-off game leading in to what will then be 1v4 and 2v3.
Wow, the Cam Luke game.
Yeah, okay. I gave it to the whole show, but yes, I was the one that pitched it. I went to the CEO who flatly said no, and I said, well, Jeremy, listen me out. Because and I want to explain how this works. As we might get the ladder up, of course, this year would have been 4v5, so it would have been the Brisbane Bullets v the Adelaide 36ers.
This is potentially a real thing.
Allegedly. This is what I'm hearing from headquarters. Now, it's not a definite yet, but it's something that the NBL are seriously considering.
Love it.
This would have been the wildcard
in Brisbane
this year. Brisbane would have hosted it.
That would have been crazy.
One off for Adelaide.
Love
now,
it.
As Jeremy said, he said, it works this year because it's close, but it doesn't necessarily work each and every year. And I said, no, you're looking at the wrong way here. Because imagine New Zealand and Illawarra, who still would have been fighting not just
for fifth,
for fourth to get to fifth. Right. And that's the thing. It's not worrying about look, Brisbane next year's fourth team might win 6 games in front of fifth. They'll get a home court advantage. But say 5th, 6th, 7th and even maybe 8th might be a game or 2 difference, which means every single game matters to the very last regular season. And what I'm hearing right now, you're right. It will not be the NBL Overtime Finals wildcard game. It will be the Cam Luke wildcard final. But that's what the NBL, I believe, are just having a chat about behind the scenes.
Yeah. Would be awesome.
It would
and
be
just to before the series starts, a best of 3, best of 5, have one that's just one and done. Get it done or go home.
We talk so much, and so many of us who love basketball love collegiate basketball and March Madness, and so much is put on that. And if you even go back to last year, Game 5, one game, one and done. You know, you're walking into a gym, you're 40 minutes away from one team moving on, maybe being a champion or into a semi-final series, and one team packing their bags and going home. And it's not just necessarily about that one game. It's about the fact that the teams 6, 7, 8 and 9 still have that light at the tunnel, even if they might be 7 games off fourth. And I think that adds so much to the league. All right, so a little bit of news. I'll throw to you here, Liam Santa Maria, around the Sydney Kings. We'll start with Jeff Van Groningen because I think his exact role this year was basketball operations manager, but it seems like he's on the way out from the Sydney Kings.
Well, that's the word reported by Body Noj this afternoon. There's the tweet exclusive. Sydney Kings mastermind JVG has resigned from the NBL club to take up a new job at AEG Ogden, which were the former majority owners of the Kings. Bit of a change in that ownership structure over recent years. We know Jeff Van Groningen worked closely with AEG Ogden's Harvey Lister for his first couple of years there with the Kings, built up a pretty good working relationship. And yeah, I mean, it's not completely unexpected that with Andrew Gaze leaving, the end of this 3-year period, that he's going to be leaving the Kings. Interesting that he's going to be working with them, but it speaks to a whole bunch of change that's taking place at the Sydney Kings right now.
And one of those changes, of course, is a new head coach that they do need. Rob Beveridge's name's been bandied around for essentially the last month. Any news on that?
Well, my understanding is that he interviewed, was it yesterday or in the last 48 hours or so? My understanding is that the Brian Goorjian stuff has been put to the side for now. I think I wouldn't be surprised if there's an announcement made about Rob Beveridge in the very near future.
Sydney Kings making some changes. Of course, the MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Andrew Bogut's on his way to Golden State to finish the year at the Golden State Warriors. Were you at the game Sunday or not?
No, I wasn't at the game. I was minding my business, watching the game at a remote location.
What
do you mean?
Why not?
Why weren't you there?
I just felt like I just needed to be away.
Okay.
And just watch it from afar, which I enjoyed by myself.
Well, by yourself, if you FaceTime or unFaceTime with someone in the technology world, it's not really by yourself. And then we come across the fact that you're FaceTiming, or Casper Ware's brother, who is in town, FaceTime. What's going on?
Okay, so first of all, what happened was, that's my man Kenny Brunner. Shout out to KB, 2-time champion in the 2nd division here, and a Drew League legend.
Why?
And that's from LA, and that he lives here now. And the gentleman next to him is Casper Weir's brothers. So if you remember a couple of weeks ago, I was like, yeah, certain people's family members, we're back at it on social media.
Yes.
So, obviously that's Casper's brother. So, whenever I say things, he don't like it, he's responding.
Right.
So, we've been going back and forth.
He just slides into your DMs?
No DM. He comments on my post.
Okay.
Yeah, so we go back and forth a little bit. But obviously, as soon as the game was done, they hit me up. So, you got to always remember, it's all good banter, and it's basically New York and Cali. New York and LA have, like, a thing. So that's
But are you FaceTiming Bryce Cotton's family at any point during the series?
I didn't FaceTime them. They called me. They called me.
Okay.
And
No, probably asked
Tariq White's wife?
Tariq's from the South, but I see his wife at the games afterwards. We talk. Shout out to Tariq White's wife.
Whose
we
name
talk.
is?
Mrs. White.
All right.
We're cool.
We cool.
You can always get involved. And don't go anywhere because I've got something else for you before we get out of here, though. But you can always get involved. Hashtag NBL Overtime. Hashtag NBL 19. Lockie_Wind asks, what inspired you to be a part of NBL Overtime? I don't.
Wow.
He's just asking a generic question. We'll start with
To
you.
work with the great man.
Yeah.
Cam Luke, obviously.
I think this is. We have a really good dynamic here. I like both of you guys on this panel, working with you and not working with you, like behind the scenes. Off camera. I think you guys are cool, and I just love the fact that we have a set that we are free and clear to discuss whatever we want to discuss, and I think it's good. I mean, other than that, I would have just been like, look, I just like to do it twice a month.
I enjoy not working with you too, Kerry. C_Vaza8 says, McCarron or Kennedy, who is more important in this final series?
Wow. They're both really important.
They both are.
I think Kennedy. McCarron, boy, wasn't he huge in that third quarter.
Super huge.
But Kennedy, I feel, is the one who can spark it in a number of different ways. And he's the real matchup issue I see in this series.
Scudsy.Sir says, will the Phoenix draw more of a crowd than United next year with their hype and signings?
Let's talk about this, and I'm going to tell you why this is extremely important.
This your burner account? Because you're very passionate about that.
You're ready to go.
This was something I was going to ask about 2-3 minutes ago in my head, but I was like, you know what? I should wait till
now.
Next round or whatever. Maybe I'll last overtime.
Do it now.
Here's the question. There's one team right now in Melbourne. So there's people that really come to the games because they love the NBL and basketball, not really because they love United. When the Phoenix show up, how many of United fans are departing because they now have an option?
A bunch.
Ooh.
I think a bunch.
Ooh.
All those people out there in that southeast corridor go, hold on. I mean, it's been fun,
Right.
and there's been fun cheering on that championship, and I love cheering on Chris Golding and so on and so forth. But this is the team that represents me. This is my kids play for Kilsyth or Dandenong or Knox or any of those teams out there, Nunawading, and what am I going to not cheer for the team? I'm not going to support the team that specifically represents me and our program. I think there's a whole bunch of them.
That's all I wanted to ask.
I'm not 100% certain because winning glosses over everything in sport. And if Melbourne United go back-to-back, then it's going to be hard to leave a winning organisation. Although, if you're going to do it, community aspect and the base to which they're going about it's the right way. Jason DeSantis says, if Perth
my God, that's the head of the Red Army on the low.
Is it?
What?
Hell, I don't know who the head of the Red Army is.
I don't know how I got in the group, and he added me into the group.
What does he say?
If Perth do win, does that mean Cotton should have been MVP and Gleeson Coach of the Year?
No, they're regular season awards.
No, they're regular season awards, Jason.
Lastly, Darren C. Hastings. Do you know him?
No.
Okay. I don't know if this is a serious question. We'll ask it anyway. I don't think it's actually legally able to be done, but we'll ask. Is Homicide interested in being Australian Prime Minister?
Oh, man.
Lord, help us.
All right. I guess that's a no. Okay, quickly. You had a very special date last Wednesday night. You gave away a ticket to the Kobe Bryant Mamba Mentality speech, and we've heard a lot about it in different ways. You had 4,209 Instagram stories about it, so I won't worry about that because everyone told me how great it was. But how was the man that you gave the ticket to and seemed like he had a good time?
It was awesome. Kirby was extremely appreciative, grateful of it. We had a great day. We spoke a lot. You know, he lives in Geelong, and it was a great opportunity to kick back with an absolute stranger. It was really dope.
I love we come out of that experience. We're not talking about Kobe Bryant. We're not talking about Mamba. We're talking about Kirby.
Yeah. Shout out to Kirby.
Did he shout your Nobu when you took over after him?
Oh, actually, we went to Nobu and we sat down and the kitchen just closed, so we just got up and went to Spice Temple.
That was Spice Temple.
Not
Same
bad.
question replies.
Not bad. I've had
How was
better.
the Mamba?
Yeah, it was.
Mamba was dope. Mamba was dope. What was
the
awesome.
one takeaway? Like,
the one takeaway that I really appreciated from him, and it's just, again, it comes down to like mindset. And it was literally during the height of his playing career, which is like his 3rd championship ring. He's on the bus. Like, what am I gonna do after the game? Forget being caught up in the now. Always plan for the future.
like where? What
club
am I going to?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
After basketball, after the game, where am I going to be? I'm setting up now. I'm setting up for later now.
Do you think he's more proud about winning a championship or an Oscar?
I think he's more proud about winning an Oscar.
I think so.
That's awesome. I mean, what NBA
Huge
player
effort.
you know has won an Oscar? What athlete you know has won an Oscar?
Well, Kareem should have for, was it Airplane?
Airplane.
One of the biggest Oscar snubs of all time.
Seriously. Kareem and Bruce Lee, name me a more dynamic duo. Do you know anything about Kevin Durant doing the exact same thing in August?
I don't know anything about anyone doing anything in August. This was the first time I heard this.
Okay.
Friends
cool.
of the program?
Cool.
I mean, I didn't get to that part yet, but if they, I mean, you know, I'd love to be involved somehow.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what you said when we heard Kobe was coming. And
No,
you said, we've got to be there.
I
And
literally-
then you took a literal stranger while Liam and I were on the couch.
I literally, I don't know. This is new to me.
New to you?
This
Okay.
is completely
Look, I
new.
don't know, but that's what I'm hearing. Anyway, all right. This thing going to be, are we going to have a show next week?
Of course we are. We got to close it out
gotta close
somehow.
it
So
out.
to be
Somehow.
closed out?
I have seen, I picked Melbourne in 4.
So have I.
I've seen nothing in the series so far to make me change my pick.
Yeah, same too. All right, we're out of here. Hashtag NBL 19. Hashtag see incredible. Kerry Williams. I'm looking at this one, am I, Liam? All right, there you go. Turn the light off on that one. We're getting out of here. Game 3, Friday night. Enjoy it. We'll see you this time next week on NBL Overtime.